Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are using Nutella. Yes, it even has my name on it. Now, Nutella is something that I don't typically have in my diet, but I got given a few tubs of these for Christmas. So what I'm trying to do is use them up in a more healthy fashion by mixing them with some protein powder and a few different ingredients, and we're going to make basically Nutella squares, or you can turn them into bars, just depends what size you want to do with them. So again, Nutella is super high in sugar and fat, which is okay if you're going to mix it in with a bit of protein. So that is the plan today. We're going to basically try to healthy up the protein form of the Nutella. Alright, so what we're going to start with is everything that you need today. So starting down the end here, this is kind of the end bit, but you're going to need some kind of tray to put your bars or your squares or whatever in. I've lined it with some baking paper. It tends to be the least sticky when you're putting in some type of bar, or you can use aluminium foil as well, and just a light spray of coconut oil. You will need a knife because we're going to score the bars later on. You're going to need a set of scales. I've already pre-weighed most of the stuff, but you are going to need those if you're doing it at home. A good mixing bowl. I find glass is really good because it doesn't tend to stick too much. Spoon for mixing. Now, starting off with your ingredients. So we're going to start off with the wet ingredients. In this cup, there is a quarter of a cup of almond milk mixed in with a tablespoon of coconut oil. As you can see, it's kind of oily on the top. And I've just used this coconut oil. I really don't think it matters what coconut oil you use, as long as it's an all-natural one, which coconut oil should be. It shouldn't have any other ingredients in it, and it needs to be melted. Now, we're in summer in Australia here, so this is sitting at room temp and it's melted, so that is all we need to do. If it's cold where you are, make sure you melt it, then pop it in with the almond milk. Coffee is essential when you're in the kitchen. And then the Nutella. So you're going to need some Nutella. You're going to need only 2 tablespoons, so you don't need too much. My jar's already half gone. So that is all you need. And then moving on to the dry ingredients. So you're going to need some oats. That is 2/3 of a cup of just traditional rolled oats. That is 40 grams of coconut flour. We've got cacao in here. This is just plain cacao, and I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of that, so about 10 grams. And then we've got some shredded coconut, and I'm going to use about 10 grams of that as well, so not too much. Now this is optional. You can throw in a few sachets of stevia if you want to make it a little sweeter, but again the Nutella is going to have a little bit of sweetness to it. And then finally some protein powder. I'm using the Cytec. This is the Choc hazelnut. It's meant to taste like Nutella, but to be honest I don't think it does that much. That's why we're going to add in Nutella, a little bit of cacao, but any type of chocolate protein powder. So if you're a vegetarian, you can use a raw protein. I can't guarantee it's going to taste exactly the same. I find that WPI in this recipe, so it's WPC, tends to work quite well. I probably wouldn't use a casein, it's just going to be a little bit thick. Then, final ingredient down here. This is just dark chocolate, unsweetened baking chocolate, and that's 70 grams of that, and all we're going to do is just melt a little bit of that on the top. So again, it's not sugar-free, it's not dairy-free, none of that, but it's just a way of jazzing up Nutella to make it a little bit healthier and a great on-the-go protein bar. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to start off with the wet ingredients. So into your mixing bowl, we're just going to pop in coconut oil, almond milk. Then you're going to need to grab your scales. Now, if you're someone, I'm dieting at the moment, so I have to be very careful not to lick the spoon and not to steal all the Nutella. So put your Nutella on the scales, alright? So I want you to come in here nice and close and tear your scales so that they are on 0. Then you're going to take out your Nutella. I want 40 grams, so I've got too much there. There's going to be a bit of residue on the spoon, so yeah. Alright, 37, and I'm going to get another spoon and just pop that in there. And a tiny little bit extra. Alright, keep one of those spoons, keep that other one for later. Already making a mess. Cool, and then you're just gonna mix that up gently. You don't have to worry about it too much because you're gonna pop it in the food processor in a minute. And now we're gonna start adding in the dry ingredients. So the oats, and the coconut flour. This is a really good recipe as well if you have kids. You can obviously reduce the amount of protein powder you use and maybe add more oats or more Nutella, because again, it's okay for them to have a bit more carbs and fat in their diet. And then just grab another spoon. It's pretty much just going to do a tablespoon. If you want to weigh it out, it's going to be about 10 grams. And then the protein powder, I am going to weigh the protein powder out. So again, zero the scales, and we're going to get 90 grams of protein powder. It's usually about 3 scoops. Maybe doing little scoops because I'm running out of protein. 80. Nailed it. Yeah. Alright. I am just going to do 1 sachet of stevia because this is organic and it's quite strong. So depending on if you're using stevia or Napier, stevia is obviously a lot stronger in the natural and raw form. And then we're going to mix it. So just kind of combine the ingredients. The only things that I've left out is the shredded coconut. We're going to add that in after we get it out of the food processor so that it's just like a little bit more grainy throughout it. Alright. That is it. Now if you find your mixture is a little bit too, say, dry, you can add in more almond milk and that's just going to bind it a little bit more. If it's too wet, then add in a little bit more protein powder. Alright, so what we're going to do is now come over to food processor. Any food processor is fine. This one is just a standard Sunbeam Mixmaster. Now, I'm just going to throw that all in there. I'm going to try to do this without making a mess. And it looks quite dry as you're doing it at this point, but once the coconut oil, Nutella and everything start to blend up, it will become a lot more moist. I say that in every video I do. It's super creepy. Wipe that on. And pulse for probably about 2 to 3 minutes. Halfway through, just wipe down the sides and then give it another blitz. Alright, so when it stops blending, it should kind of start forming a bit of a ball. And then you know it's pretty much ready to go. So we're going to take it out of there now. And you can see it's kind of formed a nice ball shape now. Balls. And then we're going to pop it back into the tray. I have washed my fingers, so you can use your fingers now. It's going to be a lot easier. It's actually going to be easier if your fingers are wet. So I'm actually going to just dampen my fingers. And then just get the remaining bits out. And then we're going to fold through the shredded coconut. And it'll kind of taste a little bit like a Bounty bar as well, which is one of my favorite chocolates, but obviously super high in calories. I tend to just fold it in bits rather than all in one lump, so it just goes through a bit more evenly. And then that is pretty much it. We are going to then grab the tray that we prepared earlier and begin to spoon the mixture in. Again, probably grab 2 spoons or a wet finger to get the mixture in. I really need to stop saying sexual innuendos. Like wet fingers and moist. So, once you've done that, I'm making a real mess here, you want to kind of even out the mixture. A good idea is to actually wet the spoon, warm water, and then just press that out. little squares rather than bars. So we do want them to actually sit quite high in the pan, and then we're going to melt the chocolate onto the top, and that will be it. They'll be all done. Now what I'm going to do is just pop that in the fridge quickly while we melt. If you want to go a little bit quicker with the process, just whack it in the freezer for a couple of minutes while we melt the chocolate. If you have this a little bit cooler, it will just set a lot better as soon as you put that chocolate icing on the top. Alright, so a couple of minutes. Alright, so we've got nice clean hands now. Wipe down your area, and we are going to do the last step, which is the melted chocolate. Really, really easy. Microwave on high, 1 minute. And now all chocolate tends to melt at different points, so just kind of see how it is after 30 seconds and then again after a minute, and just take it from there. And while you're doing that, clean up your kitchen, because this recipe, if you don't start to soak the pans really quickly, they will get really sticky and stuck. So get everything else out of the way. And then the last step is pretty much just icing it. And then what we're going to do is just score the bars, not completely cut them until they're set. So we're going to just ice that, score them, whack them back in the freezer for another 10 minutes, and then they'll pretty much be done, or you can leave them in the fridge for a couple of hours. So I guess while we're waiting for the chocolate to melt, I'm going to talk a little bit more about protein. And it's obviously been the holiday period, it's just been Christmas, New Year's by the time that you see this video. And the biggest thing that I find that people miss in their diets, and when my clients are doing their reports back to me over this time of the year, is protein. So their protein is super low. They might hit, for females, 100 grams instead of 150, and then their carbs and fat are super high. They tend to start getting tired, hungry, all these things are going on, and it's because they're missing protein in their diet. So I can't stress enough why this sort of recipe is a great idea instead of eating all that chocolate that you got given for Christmas like I did, is make something a little bit more creative with it. It doesn't mean you have to go back to eating straight away chicken and broccoli or whatever boring meal it is, or unprocessed meal. You can have a little bit more fun in the kitchen, but just be a little bit more mindful of the fact that you need to get protein in your diet. So that's a minute and it hasn't even melted yet. So let's go. Another minute. Check it after 30, so I don't want to burn it. I always burn chocolate. And yeah, so back to protein. So try to hit, I would say for girls, if you're resistance training, you're going to need at least 100 grams a day. And for guys resistance training, at least 150 grams a day. Now that's the base. Obviously if you train more than that, have more lean mass than that, you need more as well. Because the more muscle mass you have, the more muscle tissue you have that you need to resynthesize, you need to have repair, growth, so you need protein and carbohydrates in your diet. Carbohydrates aren't as essential as protein. You can get by without carbohydrates or with low carbohydrates in your diet, but protein is very essential for holding onto that lean mass in your body. Alright, let's check it again. That's been another 45, and that is looking perfect. Now again, you think, why is she using chocolate in this recipe? Well, it's only 65 grams. Now if you're doing 9 bars, that means you're only getting about 7 grams of chocolate per bar, which is very, very minimal. And it's just a really nice way of setting it and adding a little bit of sweetness as well, say if you didn't add that stevia or anything else to the recipe. Alright, it's ready to go. Let's check on the bars. Alright, they've been in the freezer a couple of minutes, and we're just going to pour this deliciousness all over the top there. And again, you can cut this down whichever way you like it. If you want to make, 20 little baby squares, you can. If you want to make 3 massive bars and you're a guy and you're on a bulk, then you can eat the whole stack of it, which is probably what my boyfriend's going to do. Because I won't be eating this, unfortunately, at the moment. I might be able to sneak like a little square into my macros, but again, it's a great recipe for someone that's trying to push more calories into their diet as well, more fats and healthy carbs from the oats. and nice and low GI and a bit of fibre in there too. Alright, so that is done. Alright, so they have been in the freezer now for around about, I think about half an hour. So we're going to take them out of their tray. Nice and easy. See how easy the baking paper should just come. Our healthy Nutella slices. So again, you can see that recipe I just did made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces. So what you can do to figure out the macros is just do the total recipe divided by 12. I'm going to pop the macros for 12 on the screen below so you can see all of that, protein, carbs, fat. But again, if you want to figure out your own macros, then go nuts. And I'm going to go and enjoy one of these bad boys.